Hey everyone, today we're going to be looking at text structures and then how text structures help create a different framework in different nonfiction texts. So first and foremost, the basics. So what is a text structure? It is a way the author organizes information in a text. And so I know what you're thinking here. You're thinking, well, why do I need to know this? Isn't that the author's job to organize the text? And yes, it is the author's job. But if you're able to recognize different types of text structures while you're reading, this will then help you focus attention on key concepts and relationships, anticipate what is to come, and it will help you with your comprehension. It'll help better your comprehension and understanding what you just read. So there are 5 main types of text structures, and the first one that we're going to look at is description. Now with description, this is the author describing a topic by listing characteristics, features, attributes, and examples. Now with this, the main purpose is to inform the reader about a specific topic, and the way it is organized is by characteristics, by features, and by attributes. So an example here could be an article about a narwhal, right? And in the article, we may look at like, oh, they only live in Arctic waters. 80% of them are, live on Earth, or like basically just reading a passage that's telling or showing or explaining to us what a narwhal is. And so by reading this article, this descriptive article, you're essentially, right, learning about what the narwhal is. And you might have a paragraph about their characteristics, you might have a paragraph about their features, you might have a paragraph about their attributes, and that's just kind of how it may be broken down. Okay, and so when we look at description text structures, or when we look at any of the text structures, we want to look at signal words. And these are what the author used to help them transition between the different ideas clearly. So they are essentially a hint for the reader as to the organization of the text. Now, I want to make sure we understand they are not always in every single text, but we need to be looking for them in the text to help us identify what type of text structure it is. And here are just some of the examples of the text structure, the description signal words. I'm not going to read through all of them. You can read through all of them. They're also already in your notes. Okay. Now, moving to our next text structure here is chronological and sequential. Now with chronological and sequential, this is when the author uses the order of events or chronology to inform the reader about the events or content. It is organized in a variety of ways, going from time and date to a series of steps to a list-like structure. Now if it's time and date, you might think like, the history of the Holocaust, so when it began and when it ended. A series of steps, maybe how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And then something like a list-like structure could just be like a list of events that you have to get done in that day. Okay, so those are the 3 kind of ways that we'll see chronological and sequential. And then when it comes to signal words here, all of them are pretty self-explanatory, like first, second, third, after, while, before, etc., etc. And then you have something like time indicators, right? So like 1908, 1932, 2023, so on and so forth. If you do see the time indicators, there are times, this is a careful what you see sometimes, there are times where you will see other passages use dates. So you have to make sure that the author is putting those dates in time order. So if you saw like in 1923, such and such happened, all the way back in 1807, such and such happened, and then in 2020, such and such happened, that may not be chronological order, okay? Now our next text structure is compare and contrast. Now with compare and contrast, this is when an author explains how 2 or more elements are alike and how they are different. You've been doing and comparing and contrasting things since you were young. The purpose is to explore the relationship between the elements here, between the 2 different elements that we are looking at. And they are organized generally either by subject or by similarities and differences. Now, an example here could just be comparing and contrasting alligators and crocodiles. And when you finish reading that article by the author, you'll know, how they're similar, how they're different, so on and so forth. And then looking at our compare and contrast signal words, these are just some of them. I think I listed more in your notes. And just understanding, like when it comes to compare and contrast, generally we want to compare and contrast things that are, close, like they have similarities. You don't want to be comparing, how does Batman similar than strawberry jelly? Like it's not going to be something we compare and contrast, right? We would compare Batman to Superman, etc. Now with cause and effect, this is probably the most used one on our SOL test. This is probably the most used one on assessments given, and it can be one of the harder ones to grasp. So the author shows, I think that's why they ask it. So the author shows how one thing leads to another, and the purpose is to create a relationship or relationships between events and ideas. And it is organized in a way where effects are followed by the causes, or cause is first followed by the effect, one or the other. And so one of my examples that I would give for this would be like the Revolutionary War and how it started. So if you look at the Revolutionary War, England started to exert or show more power over the colonies, like taxation without representation and so on and so forth. The colonies said no, and then the effect was we went to war. That is an easy example of cause and effect. Now, what I recommend always doing when it comes to cause and effect, if you think it is cause and effect, to find the effect, right? Start backwards from that. So find the outcome. What is the outcome? Here it was, the war. The war began. That's the effect. And then work backwards. What are or is the things that caused that war to occur? And here would be the overexerting power that England began to have over the colonies. So that's cause and effect in a nutshell. A lot of different signal words here. Some of the big ones are like because and consequently and if, then, so on and so forth. Now our last text structure here is problem and solution. Now with problem and solution, the author presents a problem and one or more possible solutions. The purpose is to present a concerning issue and share something that was or can be or should be done to remedy this issue. So for example, single-use plastic items are beginning to pollute the earth, right? So a solution to that is bringing a refillable water bottle, or one that seems really hard to me, but I mean, it is banning plastic straws. But man, do I hate paper straws. Anyway, so you either get a problem with the details or a solution with the details, okay? And we want to just make sure we are careful. Oh, sorry, I'm still in signal words. These are some of our signal words here. Problem is, solved, decision, resolved, question, so on and so forth. Again, these are all listed in your notes already. Now, caution, because cause and effect and problem solution can be similar and they can be easily confused. So how do we tell the difference? So cause and effect explains why or how a situation or event occurs. For example, if we go back to that single-use plastic item that we just talked about, what led to it being a problem is that they have become more readily available, right? There are more plastics that are readily available for us. Therefore, there is more pollution. The effect here is the pollution, and what has caused it is it's become more readily available, and we have not done the best job of recycling it. That is cause and effect. There is no solution provided here. We are just telling you, hey, the effect of too much single-use plastic items in the world is pollution. Now, the solution to that we've already talked about, right, is that, different ways to stop this problem from continuing. So, problem and solution proposes solutions to negative situations or events. So it's just something to keep in mind. Now, a fun fact is organizing information into a text structure is nothing new for you. You are all already experts at this. Think about it. How many times today have you noticed similarities and differences between things? How often do you remember to think about causes and consequences, such as the consequence of getting your phone out in class? How many problems do you solve every single day? How many things have you had to remember so far today? How have you made any mental list, like I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this? How often do you chat about things that have happened to you? All of these things are the different text structures that we just talked about. You do them every day. We're just now applying them to what we read. All right? And then a final note here, just being able to recognize text structures has its advantages. You will be able to locate main ideas quickly, understand the author's purpose, sum up ideas from the text, and explain what the text is about. All of these are very important when it comes to reading nonfiction text, and that's why we want to do text structures before we go into some of these other things like main idea and author's purpose. So I want you to take this quizzes here. It's linked into your notes like it always is. I swear if I did it wrong again, I'm going to be super bummed with myself, but I think I did. And then if you move on here, we're going to practice, and you should see 5 practice passages in your note attached to your notes. As always, if you have any questions or you need help with anything whatsoever, just don't hesitate to ask me. And that is it for text structures. All right, bye everyone.